preparing to stream the live stream meeting. Hey there, everybody. I'm Renee Hobbs, and welcome to Across the Generations with Media Literacy. We are just delighted to be continuing our series, preparing to stream the live stream meeting. Hey there, everybody. Okay, there you go. Now I know it's working for sure. Last fall, we had a really great start to the series where we looked at media literacy in preschool, in elementary school, in middle school, in high school. We had experts from a wide variety of disciplines and areas of expertise help us understand the developmental trajectory of media literacy. And in so many ways, this conversation got richer and deeper each of the months of our fall program. Now, in the spring semester, we take it on home, and here's what that looks like. Can you see my screen here? Today, we're featuring Theresa Redmond talking about media literacy goes to college. And that's, of course, going to be the focus of a very rich conversation today. But you can see the whole spring program ahead with media literacy for parents on January 31st. And media literacy for older people, media literacy for older people, and media literacy for seniors. And our concluding event on March 14th, where we focus on intergenerational dialogue. We bring it all together for what I think is going to be a really great culmination, a conversation that's been unspooling every month here at the Media Education Lab. And by your choosing to come here today, you're participating in our Everyone Learns from Everyone experience. So Theresa, to the media literacy community, you need no introduction because you're such a famous player, such an important contributor. Take a look at Theresa's scholarship, and if you're ever in the presence, as you will be today, of her teaching, you'll see what a masterful teacher she is. But Theresa, we've been waiting for you all year, and finally in the new year, you have arrived. Take it away, my friend.
All right. Hello, everyone. It's so good to be with you. And I believe that it is standard practice to do a little check-in. So let me pull up an image right now. I'm going to go search for this playful check-in image that we can use. Where did I put it is the question. Give me 1 second. Well, as I'm looking for it, go ahead and pop in the chat where you're coming to us from. And we'll get this rubber duck scale going on. All right, so say hello in the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and share with you this goofy rubber duck scale. How are you doing today? How are things going for you in the new year on this Tuesday, Monday? You can use your chat, or you can use your annotation drawing tool to circle the rubber ducky. That's where you're coming from us today. So where are we? Let's see. Oh, so many familiar names and faces. We've got a number 2 ducky upright floating. That's good. All right. A lot of number 2s in the chat. I'm right there with you. Things are going great today. It's raining outside here in Boone, North Carolina, but it's keeping me afloat. We've got a couple folks coming in now. From other places. We've got a number 1 ducky, a number 4 and a number 9. Oh my goodness. Well, hopefully after today's session, you'll be tilting back upright a little bit, inspired with some ideas to share in your own media literacy context. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the rubber ducky scale now, but you can keep that in mind. And I'm going to move into my slides. Oh, we had a number 5. Okay. So here we go. It's good to see you all. All right. So I'm going to be moving around a little bit, but give me a thumbs up if you can see those slides. And if we've got folks to help each other out in the chat, that would be great. I'm working on a small screen today, and that way you can help each other out if something comes up. But here we go. Across the generations with media literacy goes to college. And I want to shout out all of the past presenters. Renee just did an overview, of course, but I do want to pay it backward to those folks and look at where we've come from. This is a screen grab from Adam Maskell's presentation, which was in December, and I thought he did a beautiful job reflecting on the past presenters, Faith and Kristen and Troy's work, and now we're adding Adam to the mix. We're going to keep this thread unspooling with a focus on college. And I'm using this idea of media literacy goes to college kind of as a play on words. It is the first day of classes here at App State, and the world is changing so fast. Our digital world is just unfurling at a pace that demands our steady attention and engagement. So over the holidays, over the break, many of you may have seen the GPT chat unfold. And so that's a great example of how our practice is always changing to adapt. And that's what I hope to speak to you about today, is leveling up not just media literacy in terms of scaling it nationally and getting media literacy into traditional and non-traditional contexts, but also leveling up our practice, how we engage in practice. So I'll share with you some ideas about pedagogy that will give you activities and assessments to enliven student-centered and timely media literacy learning. I'll share a snapshot of practice for my class. We'll break into some discussion in breakout rooms, and then we'll come back for a Q&A. So to kick off, who are today's college students? And I'm going to shift to a short 2-minute audio piece that will give us a little bit of insight into today's college students. But as I begin this, we're just going to listen to 2 minutes. Do drop a few adjectives in the chat that describe the characteristics of today's college students in your experience. So I'm going to go ahead and play 2 minutes of this short piece from NPR. Today's college students aren't who you think they are. Just 2 minutes.
For nearly a third of college students, 2 or 3 of these ring true.
What we think of as non-traditional is really the majority of students.
Here
Like
we go.
Aaron,
Let's back it up.
Non-traditional college student has become traditional. Of 17 million students attending college this fall, most have some way in which they do not fit the classic model of the recent high school grad with their parents' support. NPR's Alyssa Nadworny reports.
It's fall orientation at Anoka Ramsey, a 2-year community college just north of Minneapolis. Students are lining up to get their official college ID.
So Aaron, on 3, we're going to click a photo.
Erin McKenna is a 19-year-old with bleached blonde hair. She takes a seat in front of the camera
1, 2, 3.
and flashes a big grin.
Very nice.
She still can't believe this thing, college, is really happening for her.
I originally wasn't going to go to college.
Erin has been homeless and just assumed college was too expensive. After high school, she spent a year working, and then a friend suggested she look into the local community college.
Started doing a little more research on it because I'm like, there's no way it's this cheap. There's no way. And there was a way. It was very affordable.
She was able to pick classes that left her room to work full-time at a pizza shop.
Now I'm giving it a shot and seeing if I can do it.
The machine spits out her ID.
Welcome to Anoka Ramsey. You're official.
I look scared.
Students like Erin are perhaps not what you'd think of as typical college students. She's not right out of high school, she doesn't live in a dorm, and she's not getting money from her parents. But Erin actually has a lot in common with the average undergrad today.
Being financially independent from their parents, delaying post-secondary enrollment by more than a year, working full-time while enrolled.
That's Alexandria Walton Radford, who directs the Center for Post-Secondary Education at RTI International. Other characteristics of non-traditional students: having a child,
Being a single parent, not having a traditional high school diploma,
or attending school part-time. Walton Radford's research shows that 74% of undergrads have one of these characteristics.
So I'll go ahead and stop sharing the audio piece there, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at what popped up in the chat. I saw folks writing about the characteristics of college students today as career-focused, resilient, overwhelmed, anxious, needing immediate relevance. So that's starting to get into the next piece of this prompt, which is, along with your adjectives about the characteristics of college students, who are they as learners? And that's one particular piece that I'll discuss in today's series session. So who are they as learners? All right, so we're popping some more ideas into the chat there. Who are these folks as learners? And as I go to my next slide, we've got some ideas brewing and how these ideas as learners connect to who they are. So in that short segment, we learned that college students are older than we might believe in our minds, than the stereotype would suggest. They're financially independent from parents. They have a full-time job. And so to some extent, this means that many are attending college part-time. Many college students have delayed post-secondary enrollment, and that connects with that first point that they're older than what you might envision. They also are caregivers. So they may have dependents, but they also take care of family and other folks in their community. And they have significant concerns. So whoever started in the chat with anxiety, those anxieties are real. For instance, climate change. But as we start to get to who they are as learners, take a look at the comments folks have put into the chat. They are creative. They are hopeful. They are dedicated, exploring their identity. They are this concern about offending others. They're very empathetic, I would add. They do want to engage in discussion, but they want to respect diverse perspectives. And so you see that last piece. They prefer experiences, increasingly shared, authentic, participatory, and multimodal experiences. So let me go to a small teaser here before we jump into the case. So as a media literacy scholar, I started in this business about 20 years ago, I'd say, about 17. So we're sneaking up on 20 years. And I was taught to begin with a media use survey to learn about how my students use media, whether they're middle school, high school, college, whether you're working with adult learners, get a sense of what their media uses and gratifications might be. I thought, oh, this is good, I'll do this. And so I distributed paper-based surveys to my middle school students. I moved to Google surveys with my college students. But then what did that information really mean? What did that offer me? How can I support them as learners by collecting this data? And so let's imagine now trying that a different way. And so I'm going to invite you to listen, and I'll stop sharing these slides for a minute and go back to an audio piece. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go back to sharing some advanced audio. And as you listen, I have a prompt for you. I want you to consider, I'm going to share a piece that's a media use survey. This is what I do now with my students. And you'll recognize the inspiration for this media use survey. It's in the form of a poem. It's also 2 minutes. And while you're listening, I want you to consider what changes. What changes when I move from this template collection of media uses and gratifications to this piece you are about to hear. All right, here it goes.
I am from Razor Scooters, Dance Dance Revolution, and Neglected Nintendogs. From a cobalt blue iPod Nano and a creaky Game Boy that could probably run more than just Pac-Man World if I wanted it to. I am from a faulty Sansa shaker with a mind of its own, from Peep in the Big Wide World and overhead projectors with transparency film forever smudged. I am from It's Getting Hot in Here, stop singing that, and it's our godforsaken right to be loved, 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 loved. I am from Community, Hurricane Katrina and a quaking Haiti, helping hands in Red Cross vans. I am from flipping coins in a Blockbuster and Twilight marathons in crowded basements, quietly judging every girl on Team Jacob. I am from Guitar Hero Championships at the Y, but only doing Barracuda, and coordinating our Club Penguin pizzeria dates on the home phones, glowing orange till 12 a.m. And then I'm from profuse Facebook pokes, hoping our parents don't see the search bar and remember our names. I am from the Netflix subscription that ends my life, from skinny jeans in every color chucks, 12 pounds of natural makeup, making sure everyone knows that I don't care how I look. Really, I don't. I am from novelty socks, graphic tees, and rainbow everything because 2 women kissed on the TV. Uh-oh. I am from the Pulse nightclub, the courtroom on the last day of Obergefell v. Hodges, spending every vigil and a celebration alone, at least until I find my people. I am from Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, oh my, from a couple thousand followers, and Jesus, who are these people? Because I think I might love them. I am from hoverboards that don't hover and I've got nowhere to go, but we're a little bit stupid and a lot bit bored and we'll buy just about anything they'll sell us. I am from these moments, a narcissistic generation that only seems to want to communicate and connect and share. I am from a narcissistic generation. After all, you've seen us. We just can't get off of these damn phones.
Who are these people? Because I think I might love them. So what changes? What changes between that template media use survey and this adaptation of George L. Lyon's I Am From poem? Shares her media experiences chronicling her identity in childhood, in adolescence, as a young woman, as she discusses not only the media that she used for entertainment, but also global events and how media coverage and perspectives and sharing related to those events has shaped who she is, who she wants to be. She talks about this narcissistic generation that just can't get off their phones, but yet these people that she loves, this community. So throw your ideas in the chat. How does the learning experience change? And how does what is learned change too? So it's not just the experience, it's also what I learn as an instructor and what the students learn. So put some of those ideas in the chat while I bring my slides back up. Let's see. So we listened. What a brave act to listen to our students. It can be a little scary. They have a different experience of the world than we do, but that's part of what I'm going to encourage you to do in this session. So it's personal, it's connective, it's immersive. I've anonymized this, so I won't put the name of the author in the chat, but at the end I can, if you remind me, I'll give you the link to where you can hear it, where you can listen to it. Bridges a generation gap, yes. And part of this session that I think is so powerful, this series, is that it's intergenerational. And media literacy is intergenerational because we can't be the experts. We have 20 years separating each generation. So how can we stay in touch with their experience? We must invite it. All right, so here we go. We're moving from this to this. And we get our students outside of not only the chair and the desk, but out into the world and out into sharing their experience in a way that is immersive, as you mentioned. So this isn't rocket science, and I think that's the most important thing for me to share. I use backward design, which has been around forever, and it's this idea that you start with your student learning outcomes. You know, what do I want them to know and be able to do and think about? What action in their lives do I hope to bring about through my course? I design aligned assessments to match those objectives, but with the twist, those assessments must be authentic and active because of the characteristics you discussed earlier. And then I create instructional materials and resources across multiple modalities. And that's really important as we start to move even deeper into the 21st century. Those modalities through which we can engage in building knowledge and sharing knowledge are vital. And then finally, I design learning activities that center students, which means I get decentered, and that's okay. And that's important. And that's what makes it work. Along with backward design, I do use UDL, and so I'm going to talk about that in the case. Universal Design for Learning is a phenomenal framework for bringing multiple means of expression and engagement and representation and action into your classroom. And if you take a look at these graphics from the UDL CAST group, you can see that these different approaches activate different parts of the learner's brain and thinking. And so that engagement area, we're looking at the why of learning, that affective component. Why should I care? Why should I do this? You know, where's the motivation? That intrinsic motivation can be harnessed and kind of sparked in the classroom. We can provide multiple means of representation. That's the what of learning, the recognition. That's where the multiple modalities really comes into play. But it's not just about building knowledge through multiple modalities in terms of your resources. It's also about building opportunities for expression. And I'll talk about that. Finally, action and expression, the how of learning. What are we actually doing? What are we doing not only with our minds, but our bodies when we're in the classroom? Are we in the classroom? Are we out of the classroom? Even on Zoom, we can engage students in exploring their environments in different ways. And then the next piece that I use to to build my pedagogy for media literacy is these participatory culture skills. And this is a snapshot from a table in Potter's book, Digital Media and Learner Identity. But I appreciate this snapshot because it includes these definitions. So for instance, how can I use play to help students experiment and explore as a form of low stakes problem solving? You know, play is such a natural inclination that we tend to lose over time. So here we go. As I dig into the snapshot, I just want to pull in some media literacy theory briefly. And in particular, I'm going to talk about the purposes of media literacy, because this is important. There's these great debates. If you've read Renee's work, as early as the 90s, there were these 3 purposes of media lit. And one was this great debate about what purpose really should guide our practice. So there's this protectionist approach that's all about inoculating us against the harmful effects of media. Oh gosh, GPT chat. Oh no, we'll never write an essay again. You know, we need to get that out of the classroom. That's a form of this inoculation approach. Then you've got this preparation approach, this empowerment approach. We're going to encourage students to engage in media literacy, to empower them for an unknown future. Absolutely, fantastic. Then we have the pleasure approach. Media are enjoyable. We enjoy them for entertainment, for communication, for creativity. So this pleasure approach comes in. But I'm going to add a fourth, and it kind of pulls the pleasure approach and the preparation approach together. And that's this creativity approach, this idea that expression is vital to human beings' self-worth and enjoyment. And so all 4 of these actually coexist, I think, in a media literacy curricula that really does attend to students' needs and to the problems that they may face as young people entering the world. Okay, so here's the case, snapshot of practice. This comes from a media literacy course I teach. It's an undergrad course, and it is every semester. I've been teaching it since 2014. It's a campus-wide minor requirement, so it's one of 2 core courses in a campus-wide minor. And then finally, it's first-year students through seniors, because they can take it anytime, no prerequisite. So they have varying levels of preparedness for college and for the course. And it's a mix of majors. So I've got students who they're studying commercial photo. They're studying advertising. They are going to be the electronic media and broadcast directors of the future. But I also have political science majors and sustainability majors and graphic design and English and elementary ed. Oh my. So part of this practice I'll share with you is a strategy to not only address the needs of college students, but to address an interdisciplinary and rigorously interdisciplinary group of students. I will share with you in particular a unit focused on privacy, data mining, algorithmic personalization, and surveillance. We do about 3 or 4 weeks on this. And then at last, I'll share how these activities translate not only from the real-time context of face-to-face learning or synchronous learning on Zoom, but also are good with anytime learning, because with COVID, we all moved around. So here we go. I'll use the UDL, the why, the what, and the how of learning to guide this. And let me just take a quick look. I want to make sure our discussion time is not impacted. So here we go. The why of learning. Students in a face-to-face classroom can role play using this fantastic activity pulled from Renee's book, Media Literacy in Action, called Making the Familiar Strange. And so to start talking about privacy, I have students role play aliens. They pair up with another student who role plays, well, just themselves. And the aliens interview the humans about social media. What is it? What's internet and search? And it's a playful way for them to get started with this topic. Online, I've done this in real time on Zoom, where we have a collaborative Google Doc and students engage in individual reflection, and then they can go through and highlight themes. So the why of learning. What does this do? Our UDL connections, it recruits student interest. They're going to be an alien, and they're going to interview their peer about social media. It's fun and playful. It fosters collaboration and community. Students are not in their chairs anymore. They're sitting with someone in another part of the room, or on Zoom, they're seeing someone type. It optimizes their motivation in this way. And then you have these participatory culture connections. This activity connects to our spirit of play. It connects to our theatrical side and performance. And finally, it brings together our collective intelligence about social media. You know, maybe 50% of the interviews don't touch on profit, but maybe 50% of them do. And that's where we start to look at privacy and data mining. The what? The what of learning? Well, we need to build knowledge, textbooks, scholarly readings, popular press articles, and multimodal resources, interviews, photos, popular music. These are all used to build knowledge. But then how do we express what we're learning? There's no right or wrong answer. Media literacy is about inviting rich responses and readings. So I ask my students to synthesize their learning through remix. And there's this 4-step process I use. They engage with the materials I've curated. They express their understanding through some kind of creative multimodal remix. It could be a photo, a sketch, a drawing, an interview, an audio piece. It could be a short video, a meme. Then they share this through our LMS, our learning management system, writing up a brief explanation, which does 2 things. They explain connections with the resources and their perspectives and how they're synthesizing, but they also reflect on their creative choices. Why did they use red font? Why did they choose this particular meme? Why did they set the interview up with that particular background? And so they're starting to talk about why they make the decisions they do. It's then extended through a conversation in our discussion forum. Here's some examples. And again, this is the what of learning. This is our curriculum. So you can see these minors. We've got TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, these minors with these gems, our views, our clicks, our facial IDs, our photos. But then below that, a student decided to do a survey that he sent out via social media to find out what his friends thought about privacy. And he had this question about how many smart devices do they even own? In the middle, we have a collage harkening back to some of the women's rights movements of the 60s. My Body, My Choice was slipped in there. Again, this is all student generated. And then finally, the social media action figure, hilarious. It comes with your data already there. A few more, a meme. I get all your information, you get cat videos. Screenshots from the student's phone of all of the times they're asked to share their location data, a Wordle at the top, and a poem built from the ground up where a student is synthesizing her understanding and experience of this world of data mining. The what of learning. We also can do this asynchronously. So the remixes happen as homework, that's asynchronous, but in an asynchronous online class, you could do this with a collaborative set of slides. And I provide my students with a set of pop art from the internet, fair use images mixed in with some copyright images, but then they transform those images by adding speech bubbles and their own playful interpretations. So the algorithms and the users are giving you exactly what you want to hear. Or, oh no, tech, I love you too, but you've got to stop tracking me or we'll never work out. Look at the cultural knowledge that comes out with that Jeff Lichtenstein piece. So the what of learning, our UDL connections, we're providing opportunities to customize perception. Students have alternatives. They can integrate language and symbols, activate their background knowledge so they bring their own experiences to the table. That's part of the curriculum too. And through our remixes, when we start to analyze those in the classroom, we can look at patterns, critical features, big ideas, and relationships that emerge. Now, in participatory culture, this is called appropriation. I really prefer the term remix, but this also invites simulation, networking, and negotiation of media. So we're starting to get at a lot of active learning. Next, the how of learning. This is how we learn using documentary films. I think the longest clip I use in my classroom is 10 minutes. All of my clips are pulled from documentary films and we work with them. We work with them like we're scientists in a lab looking under a microscope. So here you have these big poster papers, big ideas, clip questions. That's previewing questions I give students, questions they have, and other. What else? They have sticky notes on the table and they're in groups. I have 5 groups, maybe 6 groups, depending on my clips. And here's the catch. One student stays at the table, plays the clip from his or her computer there in the LMS, and serves as host. So as the students rotate through the room, they get to join a host, a fellow student who introduces the clip with the previewing questions, and then they start analyzing it. Wow, this is how we learn using documentary. You can see here a shot of a student group doing this, and then a shot from my LMS where I have the key questions there for them and the 3.5-minute clip. So short intentional clips aligned with clear, open-ended previewing questions. What empowerment for the student who serves as host, excuse me. What an exciting way to break down a documentary. We also do the how of learning through problem finding, problem solving, and debate through role play. So on the left, you see some students looking up at our screen in the classroom. They are no longer my students. They've just arrived at the airport in Charlotte, where they are participating in a UNESCO task force on data privacy, and they are the North American subgroup. They choose a new identity. Where are they from? You wanted to be from New York. Fine, you're from New York. And we problem solve strategies. And this is an adaptation from Bill Bigelow and Tim Swinehart's A People's Curriculum for the Earth, where they do this People's Climate Summit. It's so great. Well, let's do it for privacy. But maybe your students aren't together in a room. So what can you do? Well, I used Flip to create a debate online. Are you a Richards and we read Neil Richards, The Electronic Panopticon? Or are you a Shirky who talks about how media is all of ours and anyone can publish? So we're getting at the how of learning. And then finally, project-based learning through experimentation. Students study internet algorithms by coming up with a totally new identity. They're getting married, they're pregnant, they're adopting a baby, they're moving to Tuscany, they're going to live in a villa, and they start to track the web, tracking them. And they do this experiment where they create new algorithmic structures, and they get to see how magnetic the algorithms are in driving content towards them that suits their new interest. So again, all of this is about increasing opportunities for expression and communication through these multiple tools, varying methods of response and navigation. So we watch a documentary, but we move 5 times in the room while we're watching it. And we through all of this, we're facilitating managing information and resources through these embedded prompts and movements that actually heighten students' executive functions, which is really important. And again, our participatory culture connections, multitasking, collective intelligence, judgment, performance again, and simulation. It's a very exciting opportunity. So I'm going to share some tips. Let me take a look at the clock, and then we're going to get into breakout groups. Here's my tips. Get inspired. Explore and collect resources and stay curious. Get together. Reach out and collaborate with colleagues. Reach out and collaborate with people in your lives who are in college or in high school. Talk to students of all ages. Get UDL, including multiple means of engagement, representation, expression, and action can do wonders for inviting pathways of learning to proliferate in your classroom. Get rid of needing to be the expert. On my LinkedIn, I say I'm an expert in media literacy, and it took me a long time to feel confident with that. But every time I go into the classroom, I'm not the expert anymore. My students are. Always, 100% of the time. They bring so much knowledge to our experience. And get students in the driver's seat, because if we don't listen to what they have to say, we won't ever know of their expertise, and that active learning is key. So your prompt for breakout rooms is fairly simple today. What happens when we go from that to this? What happens? How might you flip a learning goal to center students? So I kicked off by sharing I had this media use survey. It's important to know what my students come into class believing and seeing and experiencing and why they're using media and how. But how can I flip that to make it even richer and to make it a learning experience for them that centers them? So with your group, brainstorm at least 2 ideas that go from that to this in whatever your context might be. So I'm going to stop sharing, and now I can look through the chat. And Dr. Hobbs, do you have the controls to move everyone into breakout groups? Perfect.
I do, but I need at least one person that's not Theresa to restate the task.
Oh,
to
beautiful.
Check for comprehension. You're going to be put in groups of 6, maybe 6 or 7 people. But what are you going to do? Open your microphone and see if you can explain it in your own words. What's the topic? What's the
What's the
discussion
problem?
topic?
Ooh,
We want to move student teaching from the desk to the world.
Nice.
yes, yes. We're moving from whatever that was to this. And I'm not naming those because it might be different. Maybe you're in a library context, a third space. Maybe you're in a classroom. Maybe you're on Zoom. What do you do with your students on Zoom? Maybe you send them out to find an artifact in their home. How do we move from that to this? All right, brainstorm
Okay.
2 ideas.
Breakout rooms are open. Make sure you make a new friend, right? Make sure you give everybody a chance to talk. We're going to take about 12 minutes for this activity. Rooms are open. Have a great conversation.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Shall I jump in a room? Oops, you're muted.
Go in room 5. I'll go in room 1. Those are the smallest rooms.
Oh, I see. I see now where it.
Got it?
Okay, I'm heading to 5.
All right. See you in 12 minutes. Whoa. Okay, we're back. It's my favorite part of a webinar when we all come back together. Thank you so much for having a conversation with your small group. Give me a thumbs up if you got really interesting ideas coming out of that session. When people tell their stories about what works, it's just, I got a half a page, right? Just from 5 people in the room. So that was terrific. Here's what I'd like to do now in the 8 minutes we have remaining. Somebody told a really cool story or shared an idea that you might be able to use. Tell me about it. We'll hear from 3 people. Open your microphone. Somebody in your small group said something cool that you think you might be able to adapt or modify or use. What was it?
I'll go. Instead of being in the sedentary, going out into the world, listening to the birds, listening to the wind, just being and communicating with each other about that. And then you can make a collage of your experiences with other people so that you're getting out of the social isolation back into a small group even or a larger group. And that I think is so important in today's world.
So important. Thank you for sharing. Who's next? Somebody put forward an idea that was kind of cool that you might be able to play with, adapt, or modify. What was it?
Okay. If nobody from my group is going to talk, I better do it, because we went from scavenger hunts to how do we market our avatars, which was something. And the way I think I might use that is I'm teaching the resume and the cover letter up front as a rhetorical thing, and thinking about, like, what if I had them on the side make an avatar.
Woohoo! Love it, love it, love it. Thanks for sharing, Zan. Who's next? Thomas.
Just building on that idea, I was in the same group. I teach about zoonotic diseases, which involves animals, and I thought maybe at the outset of the class, I could ask them what animal avatar might they be, and then after they learn about animals and diseases, maybe at the end see if they've changed.
How cool. Right. It's really a chance to think about identity in different ways. That when we learn, we change our identities. Our identities are tied up to ourselves as learners. And that's such a cool way to playfully.
The way I do it now, I take an example of a chipmunk. And chipmunks are notorious transmitters of all kinds of germs to ticks, for instance. But most people see chipmunks as cute, and I see them as scoundrels. And so I just wonder if after I've changed their knowledge base about certain animals, that they would make a jump like that.
So cool. And visually represent their identities with animals in different ways. That's cool. We have time for one more person. Share something that intrigued you, got you curious, made you want to learn more, explore a possibility of an idea. Theresa's waiting for you. Open your microphone.
Theresa actually pointed out her colleague uses the 1 second every day app to get students to record a bit of video and remix it and talk about, like how media grabs our attention, but how you can take control of it. And, so I don't know if I explained that well, Theresa, but it was the 1 second every day app.
What is the 1 second every day app?
Oh my gosh, it's a video app, Renee, where you grab a little video each day, and then you can do a year, you could do a month, and then you can mix it down to just 1 second briefs from each day. So my colleague, Jeff Goodman, who you may have met way back when you were here, he does it with his students to turn our tools of capturing attention into tools of us capturing the attention that things we want to pay attention to out in the world. So how do we pay better attention? How do we bring a beginner's eye to the world? And so students do that in a sight and sound class with the media making twist. Very playful.
Wow. Wow.
I even know someone, I think who was doing it in eco-media literacy, where students grab that 1 second focused on the topic of eco-media. So you could focus your 1 second every day. To a particular topic. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to shout out one idea that I got from Joyce Valenza just a few minutes ago. I don't think I quite understood it exactly, but I got something out of it. So Joyce talked a little bit about how rather than, students like models, and we know students like models, but rather than give students one model, what if students assemble a collection of models, right? And then it becomes actually, then it becomes its own entity, its own group. She puts them in a Wakelet, but you could put them anywhere. And that idea of sort of taking responsibility for finding models then also becomes like a little bit more of become an independent learner. So I just love that idea.
We call it a safari. And we look for various different examples of things. And
So it's embedding a kind of search, and I bet then you can assess their search skills, which probably get better over the course of the semester too, as they get another low stakes practice activity, right?
Right. And another take on that is BROR, which is bring your own reading. So rather than me assign the reading every week, the student is assigned to find the very best example of a reading, scholarly or otherwise, on a particular topic.
Now, Joyce, here's an example of where it's all about the packaging. I have used that pedagogy, but calling it bring your own reading is so sexy. I'm stealing it, girl. I'll give you credit, but bring your own reading is now a great name for that.
Finally, there's some payback on all I've stolen from you.
You rock, my friend. You rock. Listen, Theresa, you have obviously engaged our imagination with a billion really interesting ways to think about it. Big props to you for helping us think about the active learning that's at the heart of media literacy education at the college, whether you're teaching in the environmental science field, in the dental school, in the undergraduate college, whether you're teaching in communication or education or in any of a number of fields, media literacy pedagogies can work for you. But listen, I want to share my screen and I want to talk about what's next, because we are back for the spring semester. And in our next program, we're featuring Alicia Haywood, who's an expert on parent media literacy. And she's going to help us think about how to engage with parents, whether they understand the concept of media literacy, how they understand it, and to help think about the ways that parents engage with the concept of media literacy. So that session is going to be January 31st. It's going to be right here. If you registered for this session, you'll automatically get an invitation to that session because you've registered for the series. But maybe here in this session, you see somebody who we did see in the fall who hasn't come back for the spring. Make sure you send them a personal note. Somebody you met with in the fall and say, hey, just a reminder, we missed you in the spring series. Come back. Every month, we're going to talk about media literacy across the lifespan, and our learners are going to get older and older and older. How cool is that? All right, I'm Renee Hobbs. Thanks for joining me. This is media literacy across the generations. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next month. Bye now. Or no, 2 weeks. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Was there a link to the presentation, or did y'all already answer that in the chat?
Oh, good show. Theresa Redmond. We'll put it on the event website. We'll put the link to the slide presentation on the event website. So look for that in a couple of hours. All right.
Renee, how can you save the chat? Because I don't see the little 3 dots.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that